This Saturday, we've got UFC 305, Dricus Du Plessis taking on Israel Adesanya in the main event. And I was just scrolling through Twitter as I do, checking it out on the morning daily. A little scroll through. And I saw this from the UFC, and it says, quote, "We will call upon the spirit to keep everyone safe." And the UFC 305 athletes were participating in a traditional welcome to country ceremony to kick off fight week. So they're in Western Australia, Perth to be more specific. That's where the fight is taking place. And so there's some people of the area, I presume, that are welcoming the athletes, everyone involved in the UFC. It looks like a really large gathering of people there to offer some kind of spiritual, summoning spirits of some sort to keep people safe, and just some kind of either religious or spiritual or just a communal thing going on. I'm not sure the actual specifics of it. I think if you're interested, you should definitely look into what this is. I'll definitely be checking it out. It's called Welcome to Country, and I'll let the guy himself here from the UFC interview explain it from over there in Perth.
So what we've just completed is what we call a Welcome to the Country, where we ask the spirit of our ancestors to keep everyone safe. We ask the spirit of Creator Mum to look over the people.
Let's see, there's Dricus back there. So it's not just all the people of Australia like Jack Jenkins and Israel from over New Zealand and Kai Kara France, New Zealand, all these guys from Australia, New Zealand, whatever. It's not just them participating in this. It's actually all of the athletes and some of the other UFC employees.
To look over the people, may they have good restful sleep while they're here. And it's from the language that we use called Yungar. It's an old language that's been handed down to us for some 2,000 generations, and we're responsible now to pass it on to the next generation. So today I had my son and daughter and grand-nephews to present and pass it on to the next generations. So welcome to the country is when it's a sign of respect, is when...
So it's specifically for the visitors, as he's talking about, but I see they're like doing a dancing ritual, they're playing some music, they're doing all kinds of stuff. It looks really cool, very interesting. It's cool to see whether you're religious, spiritual, whatever, wherever you fall on that spectrum, whatever your personal beliefs are. It's just cool to see this stuff, and I know that when they travel, I feel like incorporating this would be really interesting and cool, because it just gives us kind of a look into the culture and maybe the religions of the specific areas, and it just gives you more, like, from a UFC perspective, because it's such an international sport, MMA is. I think it'd be interesting to go out and look for this kind of thing, to just give people more interesting stuff to check out. It's always cool to explore different cultures, and this is a perfect example of that. I find this really interesting.
Visitors recognise that there's traditional owners and custodians of the place that have a spiritual and cultural connect, and we call upon that spirit to keep everyone safe. It's a great sign of respect. And then when we finish our completion of our songs, we ask the good spirit to take each and every person safely back to their homes and their families. Our families and our homes are who we are.
That's awesome. Love to see that stuff. Here's a couple of pictures. Looks like Casey O'Neill, Tai Tuivasa, Kai, Jack Jenkins, Israel's back there, Steve Arseg, of course. And they're participating in some kind of ritual dance kind of thing, communal dance thing. Dan Hooker's in the background. I mean, it's like everybody that you'd recognize. It's really awesome to see this kind of stuff. This is what's interesting. And the UFC, being a fan of the UFC, being a fan of MMA, if they can provide an outlet to view some of this stuff like this, it then gets me and others, I'm sure, interested in the rest of the cultural aspects of wherever they're visiting, and I think that's interesting. Here's Israel giving a hug to the guy who was putting on, kind of in charge of this. Maybe he's the kind of family leader, town leader, community leader. I don't know what exactly his role is, but very cool to see. Love to see this. I think the UFC should try to branch out and do some more kind of this stuff, because they always go and check out some kind of crazy amusement park or something out in nature. I think it'd be cool if they could go somewhere, take a couple of the fighters and do something like that, take a couple of the fighters and do something like athletically, that's separate from the UFC MMA, do something maybe more spiritual, religious like this. Just take a couple of them if they're not going to do it with everybody. But man, this is really cool to see. And I hope you guys check it out, look into it, do some research on it. I think it's a pretty interesting ceremony they got going on. I like it.